Here with some representatives from About Face, Veterans Against the War. First off, you could just introduce yourselves and also tell us where you're coming from, whether it's outside of Chicago or hometown.
My name is Nick Boline. I was a veteran in the Navy. I am local here to Chicago.
My name is Zachary Kam. I'm a Marine Corps veteran. I also live here in Chicago.
My name is Miles. I'm a veteran with the Army and local from Chicago.
Can you tell me about how you guys ended up at this protest? Where did you hear about it? Was it through just the organization, About Face? Or was this something that everybody's kind of already aware about?
It's been in the atmosphere around the city, right, for the last couple weeks. I've been commuting through the train station downtown this last week on the way to different jobs and stuff. I've been seeing heavily armed cops wearing a bunch of military gear and carrying M16s around and using old, what I recognize as old Navy headsets to do communications and stuff. You know, of course, also people putting up posters and stickers and wearing t-shirts around. So we're here through About Face, but I'm sure that all of us have heard about it through a variety of different media.
And if you could say with the militarization of the police, I think it's something that most veterans have probably recognized some of the gear on their local police. What does that feel like, seeing some of the same gear in your own neighborhood? And also, does that kind of make you question some of the past things that we might have done?
Yes, absolutely it does. I think that it's shocking. I mean, it's quite disturbing to see. I should say that Chicago Police Department has actually been on the forefront of militarizing themselves as far as police departments in the U.S., so the nation's finest, if you will. I find it deeply disturbing because I'm walking around the train station in Chicago and it looks exactly like walking around the ECP in Bahrain, like the entrance to the base in Bahrain. And that's a fairly tame place to be walking around. Yeah, I mean, it's shocking. Not that it's right to do it over there, but it sort of breaks the illusion, sort of shatters the illusion that that sort of really lazy way of justifying it that even family members of mine have had, oh, well, our guys go over there, so their guys don't come over here. That's obviously bullshit, but they are here. And these guys in the train station will not think twice to shoot anybody on the street in Chicago, so.
These marches have all been planned for months, even before the genocide started. As soon as we knew the DNC was coming to the city, these marches and stuff were planned. I think it's super important for veterans to be out here because we all took an oath to protect the Constitution against enemies both foreign and domestic, and we have a bunch of people out here trying to use their constitutional rights and being brutalized and impeded by the police. So if we want to think that we come out here and we stand for American rights, then our bodies need to be on the front lines here and not anywhere in the Middle East.
I think it's super disheartening to see. I think when you find and really start reading into just how much resources are put into Chicago alone, put into their police budget as far as militarizing goes, and knowing that those funds can be put towards a better world, I think it's, like Zach said, well within veterans, both active and retired, to be out here defending what citizens are asking for and voicing what they feel is right. I think it harkens back to exactly what we all signed up for, defending and the people we love in our home. And as far as the militarization goes, I think it's like seeing the Imperial boomerang come back right to your front yard, to see how much resources and hardware are put to local police in the name of silencing and oppressing and harming the local community in Chicago alone.
Since you're all local from Chicago, I've heard that this must be the most dangerous place. So, they all talk about the gun violence. If you could talk about what does it feel like being in the city that gets scapegoated anytime crime comes up? Also, what's it like living in Chicago regularly?
So I'm originally from New York, and
the second most dangerous place.
The second most dangerous. I know. So I get to chalk two of them up. So I come into Chicago, not to say I'm from New York City, so I don't want to give myself too much credit, but to come to Chicago where, like you said, the reputation kind of speaks for itself. I would say it's not warranted. I think it's a complete over-exaggeration. I think, like anywhere, big or small, you have the material reality that exists everywhere, from everything down to individual decisions to the larger economic and social pressures that develop places like Chicago and smaller places as well that create friction and are even exaggerated by them, like forces like the police. So you definitely see that, and you see that people's basic needs of who are being neglected by the community and the society that they're living in. And you can definitely see them on the streets suffering. But as far as this rampant wasteland of crime, it's not the reality.
Yeah.
So I'm originally from Southern California, outside of LA, so like maybe the third.
The third, yes,
third
yes.
scapegoat.
We got a bunch of dangerous liberals here.
Maybe San Francisco goes. So I don't want to downplay the absolute reality of economic problems and crime problems that we have here in the city, but they're very localized to these communities. And so if you were to come and visit Chicago, you probably would never even come across anything that dangerous, especially if you're going to the Loop and stuff. So I don't want to like discount the realities of it, but there's nothing inherent to either this city or the people in it that cause crime. It's the same material problems that are happening in Appalachia, in the rural United States. Industry has left. The government has flooded the society with drugs, and now they're just waiting to be surplus labor for the prison system. And so just for these 4 days of the DNC, Chicago police was given $75 million extra dollars for security. How much could that have gone to help those communities on the south and west side instead of giving them new helicopters and new shit to beat us with, you know? It can be a problem. I don't want to downplay it, but Chicago is a very safe city.
So I'm not from a big city. I'm from Virginia Beach, so kind of a right-wing area. But, to take a page out of Kamala Harris's playbook, if you're really worried about the crime in Chicago, do not come. Don't come here. Don't bring your car into the city, okay? Do not come. Because Chicago is actually the coolest city in the United States, I think. I've only been living here for about 4 years, and aside from the weather, it's pretty sick. Like my comrades have said, these issues in Chicago are not only not unique to Chicago, but they're not really Chicago's fault. They're part of a broader sort of system of capitalism that benefits very directly from homelessness and impoverishment of particular populations. And so if you're seeing on the news that Chicago always comes out, it's probably because Chicago is historically a very black city, a very radical city, a left-wing city with lots of labor activism, and it's very politically convenient for the people who own corporate media to portray Chicago as this really terrible place that's not safe, and they sort of imply that policies that people who are advocating for the abolition of police lead to this kind of thing. But the reality is you can see the $2 billion a year that's spent and see that nobody has even come close to or thought about trying to abolish the police here or really to do anything left wing. The reality is that there's very little difference between areas controlled by Republicans and controlled by Democrats. It's mostly media hype. So get off corporate media and watch independent journalists like these guys.
Hey, this guy should be the spokesperson. You should be the spokesperson.
That's the only way you're going to have any idea what's going on, because I mean, there's just no connection between reality and, Fox News or CNN or MSNBC.
Word. Well, hey, thanks guys so much for your time. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Daniel from About Face Veterans Against the War. Can you kind of talk about the organizing effort and why it's important to get veterans out to protest like this?
Yeah, it's hugely important because veterans are oftentimes trotted out in support of U.S. militarism around the world. It is definitely a lie to make it out that by not supporting U.S. military operations worldwide that you're doing something that somehow hurts veterans or hurts the troops. That is not true. What is harmful to people is being deployed around the world to commit atrocities on behalf of the U.S. empire. And so we stand absolutely opposed to that. And we want to support those veterans who are aiming, like myself, like the ones you spoke to earlier, to take accountability moving forward in their lives for the things that they were involved in, to bring about some truth-telling about what the U.S. military is doing around the world, and to bring change. Liberation for all is what we're after.
And traditional organizations for veterans are very much veteran-focused. VFW, Legion, AMVETS, Disabled Vets. These are all veterans-focused organizations. Veterans About Face, in an About Face fashion, is focused outward. You talked about like some of the impetus of why you were part of the organization, or just like the greater focus of what About Face Veterans is about.
Absolutely. And I do want to be clear, we are veterans focused. We do outward work, and we know that to be effective in working outward, we need to take care of each other in a community of care where we're honest about the things that we were involved in. So rather than getting together, getting drunk, and like speaking heroically to try and pretend that things are okay that are absolutely not okay, we get together and support each other through the process of realizing many of us have trauma that we experienced because we are part of visiting trauma upon others. And so we do internal work as an organization. For myself, I worked in the prisons in Guantanamo Bay, Cuba. Those are a horrible, hate-filled place. And I don't by any means want to center myself in what I went through, because what really matters is the torture and the fact that that place is still open today, inhumanely keeping people in prison just because they don't want to lose face, and they want to keep that, the U.S. military wants to keep that as a way to further their own interests in the world, being able to snatch up whoever they are and not be accountable to anybody else about how they treat them. And so really, I do want to emphasize, we are doing internal work to take care of each other as we're doing that external work to speak truth, the power to speak truth about the things that we experienced. So here today, we're out with the March on the DNC, whose top line demand is to stand with Palestine to end U.S. military aid to Israel. We recognize that the genocide that is happening in Gaza could not be perpetrated without the full support of the United States government in funding, in weaponry, in the fact that there's something like a third of the U.S. Navy now deployed to that region to try and intervene to defend anybody who would seek to interrupt Israel in continuing to carry out its genocide.
I don't know if I have anything else. Thank you.